Welcome to the Inner Huddle Extra Time.
Hello and welcome along to an extra time edition of the Inner Huddle podcast. It has been a manic few months and we haven't managed, myself and Jeff, to get into the studio together to do a usual style episode. So I thought I'd quickly pop into the studio and record a couple of extra time editions until Jeff and I aren't quite so busy and we can get back to taking your questions and trying to answer them and add a little bit of value and help you out with any issues that you might have as parents or coaches, especially with the new season now just around the corner. We are well and truly into tournament season at the moment. So I'm still getting lots of questions coming in. Thanks for that. And we will try and get back into the studio together real soon. But bit of news from me. Charlie Webster, who was on loan at Heerenveen in the Dutch Eredivisie last season from Chelsea, has made a permanent move to Burton Albion, and obviously he's a player that I've worked closely with over the years, from 5 years of age right the way through my soccer school and one-to-ones, right the way through until very recently. So we wish Charlie all the best, and I thought with Charlie making that move to Burton Albion in League One, I thought it would be a good extra time addition to do a chapter from my book, chapter 127, which is all about Charlie, his father, and myself, and a story from many, many years ago when I think he was an under 9, and it's all to do with communication between coaches and parents. I've also been very busy setting up a new website, perrycocking.com. There'll be a link in the notes below. It's my blog site, so I've got quite a few blogs on there. It will have a page for the podcast as well on there, and some reviews. So it's something that I've set up myself. I've done it from a tutorial on YouTube. So it's not perfect at the moment, but it's looking pretty good and I'm quite pleased with it. But importantly, there's a newsletter sign up section on there, so get yourself over to that, sign up for the newsletter just by putting your email address in, and I'll be doing a regular, hopefully monthly newsletter with all sorts of tips and links to my blogs and my podcasts, and also opportunities that come up for your child to work with me privately, or for some mentorship as well for your child and for yourselves as parents and coaches. So get yourself over to perrycocking.com, sign up for the newsletter, and hopefully be a lot more hints and tips that I can send to you to help with your footballing journey in whatever capacity you are. Right. God, waffling on a bit today. You can tell it's been a while. Right. I also don't have a copy of the book with me today. Just, can you imagine that? So I've actually got the copy on screen at the moment. So thank goodness it's on screen. And this is chapter 127 of my book, Did You Win, Did You Score? And it is titled, Where You Going, Charlie? Communicate with coaches and build good relationships. And the opening quote is, good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. And that's by Nat Turner. I thought I'd share this little story with you to highlight the importance of communication between parents and coaches. Charlie Webster, now one of England's rising stars of the game, was in my under-9s team at the time of the incident. We were playing a friendly match at our home ground, and I wanted to use the time to give all the players some individual challenges and get as much out of it as possible. Even as an 8-year-old, Charlie used to get singled out for attention by opposition teams. He used to glide effortlessly with the ball, a product of an accumulation of hours and hours of purposeful practice, coupled with a freedom to express himself, which meant teams would often put 2 or 3 players on him to try and stop him. It wasn't always part of any sort of team plan. Sometimes opposition players were just attracted to him like a magnet when he had the ball, fully aware, even at a young age, that if they were going to be successful, then Charlie needed to be stopped somehow. During one of the breaks, I think we were playing 4 quarters, I asked Charlie how he thought he could help the team despite always having more than one player around him. With a bit of guidance from me, he decided that he could take those players away from the others to make space for his teammates. So, the plan was agreed that he would take their players to places that they didn't want to be to create space for the others and then use the ball wisely to take advantage of the space. The plan was working perfectly. Charlie, bright as a button as always, was drawing players towards him and releasing the ball to his teammates in acres of space. But, just as I was thinking I was a football genius, like us managers sometimes do, and Charlie was heading for the corner of the pitch with 3 opponents chasing him, his father, Clive, suddenly shouts out, "Where are you going, Charlie?" We've chatted about this many times and laughed about it since, but my recollection is that after the 3rd time he shouted it out, my blood overboiled and I shouted back, "Leave him alone, let him play." After all, he was in danger of ruining my master plan, and the ego didn't like it. Clive didn't take too kindly to my response. There was a little bit of tit-for-tat comments shouted across the pitch while the game was going ahead. There we were, 2 grown men, who both wanted the very best for Charlie, arguing in front of everyone. Not my finest hour. After the game, Clive came striding over and asked for a word, and we had a full-on row behind my van so nobody could see. Football can often bring the worst out in people, and I thought I had the moral high ground. All this could have been avoided if I had communicated better with the parents from the start. If I had told them of my plan to give them challenges, Clive might have been more aware of the situation and not worried when Charlie ran the ball into the corners and was chased by opponents. I'm sure Clive would agree that he would have communicated his frustrations better as well by not shouting out and leaving it until after the game. I have to be careful here though, as I know he'll read this book or listen to this podcast, and he's much bigger than me. He is much bigger than me. Luckily, Clive and I have developed a very good relationship over the years, and after a couple of apologetic texts later, we scheduled to meet for a coffee the next day and chat about all things football and put our little spat to bed. Firm friends again. From then on, our communication was much better, and I tried to improve how and what I communicated to the parents of all the players going forward. Getting invited by Clive many years later to attend Charlie's debut for England as a guest of the family was one of the proudest moments of my life. So, whether you are a parent, guardian or coach reading this or listening to it, always develop good relationships and lines of communication with everyone involved. I should have told the parents that day that the players were going to be given individual challenges. Clive should not have shouted out, and both of us should not have reacted the way we did. Lessons learned for us. Learning to communicate positively with your child's coach is very important. Ask questions, but don't dictate or demand things, such as playing your child in a certain position. And certainly, don't be one of those parents who tries to become really friendly so they can be clever and manipulate things. I've known a few of those along the way. It's important for you to be involved in your child's development, and this is always best if you can build a relationship with the coach. Trust is very important between you. So never break trust by complaining to someone else about anything. Choose a team very wisely. A manager will have a massive impact on your child's life. Find out the values and beliefs the coach has and if they fit in with yours. Trust them as much as possible to get on with it. Trust has to work both ways. Also, try to build good relationships with other parents. Always offer to help out and be friendly. You've got every right to discuss your child's progress with the manager, but don't go overboard with it and make sure you pick the right times. A good rule is never to discuss anything directly after a game or when you're feeling mad, bad, or sad. Coaches can get very attached to their team and the players, so take their feelings into consideration before you let loose on how they let everyone down today because they got the tactics wrong. I promise you that if you go on the attack, they will only go on the defensive, and you'll achieve nothing at all. I had a player whose dad would phone me every Monday morning to chat about the game at the weekend. Some of these calls would go on for over an hour as he would play on my love of the game and the pride I had in my team. Eventually, I used to ignore the calls and ring him back when I was out walking my dog. It all got a bit much in the end, but he would get upset if I didn't speak to him. He used to try and manipulate me into getting their child extra playing time or to play in their best position of centre midfield. It's no coincidence it's the same position that he used to play in himself. In the end, the dad pulled their child out of the team to take them to a new elite team to try and get him scouted for a pro club. After all those hours on the phone, I just got a simple text to say they were leaving. The lad went on to get dragged around loads of different clubs, and in the end, his dad actually got banned from watching him play by at least one of them along the way. I used to get calls from other managers asking me about him. His behaviour had clearly spiralled out of control. I liked the lad very much, but his dad was a terrible role model. A good lesson to everyone, though, of how passion can quickly turn toxic if you're not careful. Don't feel that it's necessary to constantly text the manager either. The number of times I've just sat down to my tea or just gone to bed when someone will text. If you do have to ask something, it's always best in person or by phone call, but always at a good time. Not at 10 p.m. on a Saturday or Sunday evening. Always refrain from putting any grievances or asking anything controversial on group services like WhatsApp. I have seen arguments escalate to levels I never thought possible, and I even had to take a break once and remove myself for a while. It's not quite as serious, but a pet hate of mine has always been parents messaging to ask if the game is still on. Unless your manager has a history of forgetting to tell you, and you have turned up when nobody else has been there, please trust that if a game is off, they will tell you immediately. Good relationships with coaches and other parents really do create a fantastic platform for everyone to enjoy the experience more and for players to go on and fulfil their potential. And that's it. Chapter 127. I hope you've enjoyed that one. One of the paragraphs I bolded out, and there's many in the book, or sentence I should say, is this one. A good rule is never discuss anything directly after a game or when you're feeling mad, bad or sad. Actually, that's one of my rules for life. I try to stick to. I don't always succeed, but not reacting to things when you're feeling mad, bad or sad. Good rule of thumb, that. So I hope you've enjoyed that one. I'm going to record another extra time podcast about what to look for when choosing a team for your child to play for. So that one will be the next extra time, so look out for that. Please do go to perrycocking.com, link in the notes, sign up for my newsletter. That would be great. I get a little message when it says someone signed up, which is great, and I really appreciate your support, if nothing else, but I'm sure you'll get a lot out of the newsletter and anything else that comes up along the way that you need to hear about. So that's been the extra time in a huddle, and never forget, football isn't that important, but children are. And I'll see you next time.